Salvete omnes. If you are viewing this video, you have probably completed Latin 1 or are near the end of the Purple Jenny book that we've been using. And this video is intended to help you review all of the constructions up to about lesson 29. So there are many things here. Hopefully you are diligent and conscientious enough to make good notes, as these will be useful to you later. We'll start with a review of the nominative case. The nominative has very few constructions that we've concerned ourselves with. The first one is the nominative as a subject, and it's just very simply that the nominative case is telling us that we're looking at the subject of a sentence. Then we have something called the predicate nominative. This is when a noun is used with a linking verb to identify the subject, which is also nominative. And the explanation is a little bit more confusing than the actual example. If we take something like Asia est provincia, well, Asia is in the nominative case, and so is provincia. Even though they are both nominative, only one is the subject. We can all easily translate this by now. Asia is a province. Asia is in the nominative case. Provincia is what's called the predicate nominative. We can say Asia is a province. We can't say the province is Asia without changing the meaning. I'm going to go quickly through these. You can certainly pause to afford yourself time to take notes. We then move on to the genitive. When we think of the genitive, we should always be thinking of the word of. The genitive of possession is the first construction that we learned. It's used to show possession. For example, agricolae villa. We know a villa is a farmhouse or a villa. Agricolae is what's in the genitive case. This is the farmer's villa or the farmer's farmhouse or the farmhouse of the farmer. We're using agricolae to show that it's the farmer who is in possession of something. One that you might be less likely to remember is the objective genitive. When the noun or when a noun is the name of an action, it can have a genitive noun with it. Now let me explain that part there in the middle. A noun is the name of an action. Love is a thing. Love is also an action. It's a noun and a verb. Hope is a thing. Hope is also a verb. You can say, I have hope, or I hope for something. Fear, I have fear, okay? Or I fear something. So this is done to show who receives the action. So hopefully you all remember meus amor, which means my love. And then we have the genitive case. We know that puella by itself would be girl, and this is my love of the girl. Sometimes in English we say my love for the girl, which is okay. Originally it was of. My love for the girl, my fear of spiders, my hope of becoming an actor. You can hear the of there, okay? That construction is called the objective genitive. Next, we have the partitive genitive, and the genitive here is used to express part of a whole. Now, partitives is actually an old word for fractions. And what do you do with fractions? You're expressing parts of a whole, 2 out of 5, or 2/5, and so on. So when we say something like this, prima filiarum, and if you want to, you can pause here and see if you can figure out what these mean at the bottom. Prima filiarum is the first of the daughters. Pars urbis, part of the city. Nihil amicorum, none of the friends. You can hear of in all of those. Now, prima filiarum, the first of the daughters, could certainly be translated as the first daughter. Either way, what do we know about the person who says this? We know that they have multiple daughters. Next, we go on to the genitive of measure, which is used to express measurements. The unit of measurement is in the genitive case, and the number, if it can be declined, is also in the genitive case. Omnis is, if you don't remember, omnis is a river. That's where we get the word amniotic fluid when we talk about the body. Omnis decim pedum. Pause if you need a moment to figure it out. A river of 10 feet, or a 10-foot river. Omnis quingentorum pedum. You remember your numbers? Quin is 5, gent and kent are 100, and that aurum tells us it's genitive. So a river of 500 feet. And again, what's yellow is what's genitive. The number and the unit of measurement are in the genitive case. And last year, or in your first year rather, you probably didn't learn any other units of measurement. There was mention of the word mile, but this is pretty much it. There are others that we'll see later. Having completed the nominative and genitive, we go on to the dative case. Hopefully you'll remember that the dative should bring the words to and for to mind. So the dative of indirect object, the dative is used to show the indirect object. For example, rex fabulam narabat reginae. Obviously the yellow is dative. Narabat is was telling or used to tell. Rex narabat, the king was telling. What was he telling? He was telling the thing that's accusative. He was telling the story, reginae, to the queen. Okay? The next one is the dative with adjectives. This is something that we actually have in English, and it should be very easy to understand once you see the examples. The dative with adjectives is used to extend or complete the meaning of adjectives. For example, amicus Troiano. Amicus means friendly. Well, friendly to whom? Troian us is a Trojan. Us e o. There's your dative. Amicus Troiano. Can you figure it out? How about amica Troianis? Amica is also friendly, but now we know we're talking about a female. Friendly to whom? Finally, cara. Cara, if you don't remember, is dear. Dear to whom? All of those yellows are dative. Friendly to the Trojan. Friendly to the Trojans. Dear to the girl. We now go on to the dative possession, which is a little more difficult to translate exactly into English. We're going to use the dative plus some form of sum to show possession, and the possessor is in the dative. Dative plus desum, which means I lack, is used to show lack of possession. So the best way to do it is to go from Latin to awkward English, and then from awkward English to proper English. Puero equus est. Equus, you may remember, is a horse. A horse is. Puero is in the dative case. So to the boy, there is a horse. Looks kind of strange. And we can render it thus. The boy has a horse. We can also talk about what the boy does not have. Puero equus deest. To the boy, a horse is lacking. More naturally, this can be said as the boy does not have a horse. So the dative of possession, unlike some of the other ones, doesn't come smoothly into English. We have to massage it a little bit, okay, but it's still a very important construction. We next have the dative of reference. This is used to show to whose advantage or disadvantage something is done. This could be translated using for and less commonly from. For example, meo amico, Willam edificant. You should remember that edifico is I build, edificant is they build. What do they build? They build something accusative. They build a direct object. They build a farmhouse. And here's the dative of reference. For whom? To whose advantage? Meo amico is my friend. They build a house for my friend, or they are building a house for my friend. That's how we show advantage. We can also do it by showing disadvantage or harm. 3 of the 4 words here are the same. Meo amico, Willam, occupant. You should remember that occupant, occupo is seize, I seize. They are seizing a house from my friend. And again, the idea here is that we're doing this to show advantage or disadvantage, benefit or harm. Okay? We're trying to figure out whom we are referring to. That's why it's called the dative of reference. Refer, reference. We're referring to meo amico. Next, we move on to the accusatives. We have the accusative of the direct object, where the accusative is used to show the direct object. Poetas laudamus. Laudamus is we praise. Whom do we praise? The poets. Reginam puella spectat. Reginam has an M, which means she's probably the direct object. She's not doing anything. Puella spectat. The girl sees the queen. Next, we have the predicate accusative. This is very similar to the predicate nominative. Verbs of naming, making, or choosing use a second accusative. I'm going to show you this here. Voco, puellam voco Faustinam. Look at that sentence. There are 2 accusatives. I've got one here and one here. Voco is I call. I call the girl. That's a direct object. What do I call her? I call her Faustina. That's also a direct object. So when you have your Latin name, I might say, if your real name is Maria, but I'm going to call you Claudia, I'm going to say Mariam voco Claudiam. I call Maria Claudia. Same with choose. I choose Bob to be president. In Latin, you would put Bob and president into the accusative case. Okay? We have an accusative and then we have the predicate accusative. Call someone something. That something, that second accusative, is that PA. We have the accusative of extent of space. This is simply used to answer the question, how far? Kentam pedes ambulawit. I walked 100 feet. You might say I walked 400 feet. 4 is not necessary. And even in English today, it's often cut. I ran 6 miles. Some people might say I ran 6 miles. Pedes is in the accusative. And if you don't remember how pedes goes, it's third declension. It starts with pes, pedis, And then we use that ped to go all the way down. ICM ibus es. There's that accusative. Pedes. So your unit of measurement here will be in the accusative case, as the number will be when it can be declined. Next, we have the accusative of place to which. This is used with the prepositions ad, which means toward, in, which is in or into, and sub, which is under or up to, or as far as, to answer the question, where to? So, quo navigatis? Okay. Ad Graecium navigamus. We are sailing to Greece. We are sailing into Greece. We are sailing not really under Greece, although we could say that. We are sailing up to Greece or as far as Greece. Now we got this. Is the question, where are you guys sailing to? We next have the accusative of duration of time. This is used without a preposition to answer the question, how long? Claudium, 3 horas expectavit. Expectavit means he or she or it waited. So they awaited. He awaited whom? He awaited Claudius. How long? 3 horas, for 3 hours. Finally, we go on to the ablative, and the ablative, and I'm sorry if you're already tired, the ablative has the most constructions. In ancient Latin, in the really, really old Latin, before they were even writing things down, there was an ablative and there was something called a locative to talk about locations. And there was something called an instrumental or an instrumentative to talk about what tools were used or what means were used. All of those have since been lumped together into this big ablative form. We have the ablative of separation, sometimes without a preposition, and when no motion is implied, it is used to show separation. For example, servam timore liberavimus. Libero is I liberate. Liberavi, notice the V, is I liberated. It's got a mus at the end. We liberated whom? Servum comes from servus, us I o We liberated the slave from what? From fear. Sine aqua sumus. Sumus is we are, and sine means without. We are without what? We are without water. We are separated from it. Okay? That's what the ablative of separation does. Next, we have the ablative of place where. It's used with in and sub to answer the question where at. This was the very first construction that we learned with the ablative. Ubi estis? Where are you guys? In Graecia sumas. We are in Greece. Another one that we learned very early on was the ablative of place from which. This is used with a, ab, ex, or de to answer the question where from. Unde navigatis? Where are you sailing from? Where from are you sailing? A Graecia navigamos. We are sailing from Greece. Note the macrons. A dead giveaway that we're dealing with the ablative. Next, we have the ablative of personal agent, which tells us by whom something is done. Amor a regina. Well, amor is a verb in the passive voice. I am loved. A regina. Whom am I loved by? By the queen. Naratur apoita. Aristur. Tur means he, she, or it. He, she, or it is told. Apoita. It is told by the poet. That's your personal agent. Edificatur. Aristur. It is being built, or it is built, a Romanis, by Romans. It is being built by Romans. This is the personal agent. You'll see it used with the passive voice. I was attacked by a Trojan. I was seen by a Greek, for example. Next, we have the ablative of means or instrument, and it tells us by what means something was done, like by bus, by sword, with a credit card, or something like that. Deorum auxilio, well, auxilium, you may remember, is assistance or aid or help. Auxilium e o. There's the ablative. So with the help or by the help, deorum, with the help of the gods. Paucis verbis, both of these are in the ablative case. You might remember that verbum is word and pauci means few. So paucis verbis means what? Acris verbis, there's that verbis again. Acris, you might remember we talked about acrid or acrimonious. And glaudio comes from gladius, which is the sword. So we get with the help of the gods, with a few words, with bitter words, and by sword. All of this is telling us how something was done. What was the means with which it was done? Next, we have the ablative of specification. This is without a preposition, and it answers the question, and this is a little difficult, with respect to what? If I say superant, it means they are superior. We don't know in what way they are superior. Virtute superant. They are superior with respect to that yellow word. Dignus est. Dignus est means is worthy. Well, worthy of what? Or worthy with respect to what? Worthy of money, worthy of honor, worthy of punishment, worthy of love, of forgiveness, worthy of that laude. Laude dignus est. So, the ablative of specification tells us in what way something is better or worse or deserving or lovable. In English, we might say they're better than us in terms of. That would be an example of the ablative of specification in English. Next, we have the ablative of accompaniment, which was the second ablative construction that we learned using cum for with whom. Cum amica, cum amicis, cum magistre. With the female friend, with the friends, with the teacher. Next, we had the very short ablative of price. Means of payment is ablative for buying, selling, or exchanging. Decim aureis emit. Emit just means he or she sold. I'm sorry, he or she bought. So pause for a moment and think about these. He bought for decem aureis. He bought for centum aureis. He bought for magna pecunia. He bought with 10 gold pieces. We don't know what he bought. I haven't put it here. He bought it with 100 gold pieces. Magna pecunia. He bought it with great money. The means of payment is in the ablative case. For buying, for selling, and for the bottom one here, mutawit, exchanged. He exchanged the field for a house. And in Latin, we're not really sure which way it's going to go. Did he exchange the house for a field? Did he exchange the field for a house? It's a little complicated, okay? But because agro is in the ablative case, that means he paid for the field, he paid for the house with a field. Next, we have the ablative of manner, which might use cum. Okay, cum cura is with care. Cum dolore is with pain. Cum amore is with love. Cum amicitia, these are all ablatives with friendship. When we add an adjective, it must follow the pattern of the bottom lines. Cum will go in the middle. Magna cum dolore, with great pain. Magna cum laude, with great honor. And I'm sure you've heard of magna cum laude and summa cum laude. We have the ablative of time when. This is no preposition and it just answers the question when. Quarta ora veniam. I shall come at the 4th hour. And remember, the 4th hour for the Romans was 10 a.m. because the first hour was 6. The ablative of time within which. No preposition answers the question within what period. Quinque ores, that's in the ablative. Veniet. He shall come within 5 hours. And the last one, the ablative of degree of difference, no preposition, we rarely saw this one last year, answers the question by how much. Multis ante annis, many years ago. Multis post annis, many years later. All right, everyone, I know this is a huge video. A lot of this was done in class. I would keep very good notes of it for your reference. I may even let you use them in class. That's it for now. Walete.